Hi everyone, welcome to another interesting episode with I'm Food Venturist. We have a very special guest with us, Chef Aneesa Waheed from America. So let us welcome our special guest. Chef, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And so please do tell us a little bit about yourself, Chef. I've heard a lot from our common friend Chef Solanki, and he was very keen for me to meet up with you and do some collab with work together. I'm really sorry to spring the surprise of this podcast on you. I think as soon as he landed and came to our office,
I was like, where am I being taken?
Yeah.
Am I being taken?
Yes, absolutely. So yes, Chef, please a little bit about yourself.
I've been in the food industry now for about 20 years. A little smaller than 20 years, but roughly about that time. Prior to that, I was actually in technology.
Oh, wow.
And I've always had a passion for food. Love to eat and love to curate food, if that makes sense. Okay. So I grew up in a family where my father was very, very insistent on what he was going to eat for breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, post-dinner. And I remember very distinctively he would always leave instructions of what all of those meals were going to be.
Okay.
So I perhaps get it from him.
Okay.
So food is part of our life and culture, and I decided to leave corporate America and venture into some sort of business.
Okay.
And I dabbled in a few different things and found out that I had this knack for cooking, and I enjoyed it, and so started dabbling in it, and then 20 years passed by.
Wow. So I presume that you're formally educated part in terms of being a chef, or
no, I'm not. I'm
You're
completely self-taught.
Okay.
And but I've spent a lot of time studying,
Okay.
and studying more the science of food.
Okay.
So I have done a lot of education around the science of food.
Absolutely.
And the science of putting things together and protection and all of those kind of things, which is a huge part of running an operation in the US.
Okay.
But in terms of creating flavors, and in terms of cooking, and in terms of putting different types of things together, that is all something that I'm very self-taught and passionate about.
That's fantastic. So Chef, please tell us about your ventures in America, and what are the restaurants that you do?
So, when I started food, obviously I started doing Indian food.
Okay.
And also when I started food, I didn't do it formally in a brick and mortar place.
Okay.
I started out at a farmer's market.
Oh, wow.
So one of the requirements of the farmer's market was that you either had to cook your food at a restaurant and bring it to the market.
Okay.
Or you had to cook all of your food from scratch at the market.
Oh, wow.
So there are many, obviously, health reasons and code reasons for that.
Yes.
So I didn't have a restaurant. So I said, well, how do I cook my food at the street? And then, I immediately went to the street food of India, and that's what we did. Okay. So we started out doing street food of India at a farmer's market. So we would do like pani puri and bhel puri and safe puri and all that stuff. And 20 years ago in the city that I was in upstate New York, nobody had seen this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So it became very, very viral, and people really loved it, and they would specifically come to eat this pani puri stuff that we were doing. And also I'm a massive street food addict.
Okay.
Like I could just live. Tina knows this. Most nights I'll leave the restaurant, go get pani puri to go home.
Okay.
So I'll plan my days around, eating pani puri. So it was great for me. I started doing that, and that led into, what else can we sort of bring to market? And we eventually found a commercial space that we could cook and rent and, bring. When I say we, I mean my husband and I. We found a commercial kitchen that we could rent to start cooking food and bringing it to market. So I started out doing Indian food. I would do different kinds of home cooked Indian food that you can't find in America.
Okay.
So, most restaurants are doing a version of Indian that we as Indians might not recognize, right?
Okay.
But it works in America. So I wanted to bring something to the market that I was eating at home, whether it be simple things like dal or khichdi or, things that we find comforting. So I started to do that. But at the same time, I also started to introduce Moroccan food.
Okay.
And one might ask why specifically Moroccan?
Morocco,
Yes,
exactly.
that's the natural question.
Yeah.
Moroccan because I had been to Morocco. I had spent some time there. I met my husband there,
Oh, wow.
who's not Moroccan.
Okay.
He was in Morocco on business.
Okay.
I was in Morocco on vacation.
Okay.
And we kind of bumped into each other in a hotel lobby.
Okay.
And then got married.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
There are a few steps that happen in between.
Of course.
But that's the short story.
Okay.
And so we had this Moroccan connection, and he lived there for a long time.
Okay.
And I would spend a lot of time there, every vacation I could get, and all of that stuff. And I started to learn how to cook Moroccan food purely from the perspective that I enjoyed it immensely. Not just for the food and the flavor, but I also was really, really thrilled with cooking in a tagine.
No, tagine.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that you say about Moroccan food that comes to your mind.
Everybody
right?
thinks tagine,
Yeah,
right?
tagine, yes.
So yes, tagines were invented in Morocco about 3,500 years ago.
Wow.
It's a uniquely Moroccan cooking pot,
Mm-hmm.
and what you cook in a tagine is also called a tagine,
Okay.
and most often it's some sort of a stew. And it's not necessarily like a curry-like stew.
Mm-hmm.
It's close. It might be closer to a stir-fry-ish kind of thing. So does not necessarily saucy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Has some sauce. But the fascinating part about cooking in a tagine is you just throw everything in it. You put the lid on.
It's like one pot, one shot. Right?
One pot, one shot, go take a nap,
Yep,
go
yep.
shopping, come back, and dinner is done, right?
Yep.
Because the idea of cooking in a tagine is it's low fire. In fact, it's cooked on coal ambers,
Yep, yep.
long time, and you let the natural ingredients develop flavor and the natural sort of
And the flavors get to compound inside then, right?
Exactly. And the science behind the pot is you put your liquids in it, and then as it rises up and when it becomes steam and it rises up, there's no vent in the lid. So it will just kind of stay in there.
Okay.
It comes back down as water. So it's kind of feeding itself and it moisturizing
So like
itself.
a really advanced cooking system like what you have in the combi ovens right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
So I was fascinated by that. I was always fascinated by the flavors. I mean, the flavor, Moroccan flavors are extremely different than Indian flavors. And but if you enjoy sort of simplicity and you enjoy ingredients and you kind of enjoy food which is speaking in itself rather than being masked by 1,000 different things. I enjoy simple food.
Okay.
So I really loved it, So I was learning a lot of tagine cooking, and I also loved that it's the exact opposite of Indian cooking, which is saute, blend, cut, chop, have a cupboard full of masalas and all of that kind of stuff. So I just learned it for my own self. And the funny thing is, we would work 10, 12-hour days, go back home and put a tagine on for dinner. And, one day my husband said, why are we not bringing tagine to market?
Did America have a lot of Moroccan cuisine? And
No, we, even now, we are sort of the biggest Moroccan brand. I mean, now we've been doing it for 15 years in a commercial way.
Is that Tara's Kitchen? The
Tara
brand?
Kitchen, yeah, same brand.
Okay.
So nobody was, especially where I lived, which is Albany, New York.
Right.
It's about 150 miles north of New York City.
Okay.
It didn't exist, period.
Okay.
So I said, Pele, first of all, would people like it? Because it doesn't exist. Second of all, we are not Moroccan, so how do we bring Morocco to the market? And his thought was, well, we should try it, and then if it doesn't work, we kind of step back into what we're doing. And interestingly enough, we tried it, and it was a runaway hit. Because Moroccan food inherently, because of the flavor profile and spice levels and all of that stuff, is very appealing to the Western market, right?
Okay.
Because it's not like slap you in the face kind of flavors. Secondly, it's very good for people with allergies. It's naturally allergen friendly.
Okay.
It's naturally nut free, soy free, dairy free, sesame free, cilantro free, gluten free.
Okay. No wonder you say it's really different from that of of Indian food, right?
Yeah,
when we have so
absolutely.
much of all this stuff together.
So much of all of this stuff, and a lot of people in the US who are avoiding a lot of ethnic cuisine, not because they don't want to eat ethnic food, but because of the allergens in there. They naturally gravitated to what I was doing. So it was a runaway success.
Okay.
And the more and more we did it, the more and more we brought it to market. We realized that we had a niche. We realized that this was something that people actually liked, and we very, very, very quickly gave up Indian.
Okay.
And we just totally focused on Moroccan, because also a lot of people are doing Indian. Indian is the second most consumed ethnic cuisine in America.
After Chinese?
After Chinese.
Okay.
So
where does Italian fit in there?
Italian is just American now.
Just American now.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So if you're purely talking about ethnic food, it would be Chinese, Indian. Mexican is definitely on the rise.
Of course.
Italian is no longer considered.
Italian.
Yeah.
It's like a mix of, say, Italian and French together, which makes it a typical
and
American.
There is really no such thing as American cuisine, right? Like we are sort of a hodgepodge of a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we found we had a niche, and the city that I was in offered me a chance to open a restaurant.
Okay.
They sort of gave us sort of the boost to get into a brick and mortar with some funding and logistical help and all of that stuff, because they saw I was doing something unique and different, and they wanted that.
Right.
The city wanted something that was different, which would be also a tourist attraction for them, right?
Absolutely.
Which we ended up becoming. We're the number one restaurant in that area, and routinely, are a huge part of why people come to that city.
Wow. Okay.
So we had this opportunity, and we kind of started out doing the Moroccan food. And my goal always was to try and do Moroccan in a way that was accessible to the American market,
Okay.
without altering the inherent qualities of what Moroccan food is. So you might say I did what the Indian market did for America,
Right.
or what the Chinese market did for America. I did that with Moroccan food, right?
Okay.
Because I'm a firm believer that you can't really have authentic food outside its country.
Absolutely.
So I can't have authentic Indian outside of India. I can't have authentic Chinese outside of China, right? Like when a food leaves a country, by the pure travel, it's transformed.
Absolutely.
So we took some liberties, and we took some, notes from what the Indians and Chinese had done, and we kind of, started on this journey. And the first restaurant became very successful. It took a few years for us to do the second and third and fourth. We did 5, and we launched this line of cooking sauces that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that really came from what the customer was saying to us, how can we recreate this at home? And because this does not exist in the market.
Absolutely.
You can't go to a grocery store and just like you might find a chicken tikka masala sauce,
Yep.
you're not going to find a Moroccan sauce,
Absolutely.
So we thought, okay, here's another niche.
Okay.
So that led into, some cookbooks and other opportunities within media for me, doing some TV and radio, those kind of things. So it kind of became our brand. It became our sort of our signature. And, now this is what we've been doing for a long time. And looking at India the past 2-3 years, obviously I have roots here. I like coming to India to eat the authentic pani puri, not the crap I make now. So I thought, okay, I can't just be coming to India to eat pani puri all the time. So I must have a reason. So we decided to do a Moroccan restaurant here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So where can we expect to see a restaurant here in India?
We are in Hyderabad at the moment.
All right.
We opened last December. It's
Okay.
been about 5 months now. And
Okay.
it's India's first truly Moroccan restaurant. Obviously,
wow.
there are some restaurants that do certain dishes from Morocco and have elements of Morocco on their menu, but we are 100% focused Moroccan food. We do tagines, we do couscous, we have lots of traditional items like tangias and bastiyas and things that we do.
How do you manage the availability of ingredients? Because what is available in Morocco not necessarily is available over
Zero
here.
need to manage because
Okay.
basically Moroccan food is all based on ingredients that we're using. The
Okay.
spices are identical.
Okay.
It's vegetables are identical. There are some peculiar vegetables that you can't find here.
Okay.
I'm sure if I put my head to it, I would find them here.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine that India won't have something that Morocco has.
Absolutely.
I just can't imagine it. But what I'm doing with Moroccan food in India is again trying to present it in an accessible way to Indians.
Okay.
So we are not doing what we do in America.
Okay.
Right? We've reformulated everything
Yep.
for the Indian palate.
Yep.
We're for example, we're doing a Guntur chicken
Oh wow.
with gongura, right? You won't find that in anywhere.
Of course. Of course.
In any part of the world. So, but we adapted certain recipes to do that. So using local ingredients is a huge part of it for me.
Absolutely.
And infusing it with local flavor is a huge part of it for me. Sourcing ingredients is not an issue. Sourcing ingredients with perhaps the right flavor profile, the right integrity, that has been the issue. So making sure that ingredients are not failing, or when you taste a tomato, it tastes similar to what you are used to, or I was very surprised to see the size of garlic. Like, it just is not something that I'm used to.
All right.
Things like that has been more of a challenge than actually getting the ingredients.
Absolutely.
So we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we are procuring things that are closer to the flavor profile where we want to be.
Absolutely. And what is the name of your restaurant here in Hyderabad?
Tara Kitchen.
Tara's Kitchen.
Yeah. So there's
It's
no
Tara
S in the
Kitchen or
name.
Tara's Kitchen?
It's Tara Kitchen.
Tara Kitchen.
Just
Okay.
T-A-R-A.
T-A-R-A.
Yeah,
Fantastic. It's
Tara
in, where you guys have set up in which part of Hyderabad?
Jubilee Hills.
Jubilee Hills.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
road number 36. Yeah.
That's great. And I do understand that you have some interesting connection with Chennai. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was born in Hyderabad.
Okay.
I was perhaps maybe 6 months when my
Okay.
parents moved to Madras.
Okay.
And we used to live in... is this some place called like Thousand Lights or something?
Yes, of course. Thousand
Yeah,
Lights, yes.
Thousand Lights. So actually my first language apparently was Tamil.
Wow. Okay.
And it's one of the few Indian languages that I still retain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I lived here, not long, until I was a toddler or something.
Okay.
And then we moved to Mumbai.
Okay.
So spent a few years in Mumbai, and then we went to the US.
Absolutely. Can you share a few words which you know in Tamil?
சாப்பிடாச்சா
சாப்பிட்டாச்சா.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
சாப்பிடாச்சா எப்படி இருக்கீங்க
எப்படி இருக்கீங்க? Fantastic.
தண்ணி வேணுமா
தண்ணி வேணுமா? A typical restaurateur who'll always ask,
food,
how are you?
Yeah, I didn't even realize I was doing
yes,
that.
Yes.
Apparently, it's all about food for me.
Well, as you must be already knowing that, Tamil is one of the oldest language known to man.
Yeah.
And I'm very surprised that you're able to retain some part of it and,
Yeah, language, and I understood this only after I had kids, because for me in America to have children, one of my biggest fears was that they would not learn an Indian language.
Okay.
My mother tongue. I wanted them to be able to speak Hindi.
Okay.
So I remember my children's pediatrician telling me that the language that they retain from birth to the age of 3 is the strongest retention.
Absolutely.
And everything past that, just sort of starts degrading. So at home, my husband and I would always only speak to them in Hindi or Urdu.
Okay.
He's originally from Pakistan.
Okay.
So he speaks Punjabi and Urdu. So
Okay.
we made sure that we only spoke to them in our languages.
Okay.
So that really helped, because both of them now speak Urdu.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what it is. So when I came to Madras,
Okay.
and my mom says my first word was Tanni.
Thanni.
Not even mummy, it was Tanni. So I think, I still have that. And even though I lived in different parts of India for short periods of time. That's the only language I've retained. I haven't even retained Marathi, where I've spent a lot of my
Young days there.
Yeah, a lot of my years was in Mumbai, but I haven't retained Marathi. But somehow Tamil, connects.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And also, I understand that you've been recognized by the community in which you're working back in the States, and they have recognized you with a few awards and recognition. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. Not necessarily what I want to do, but I've been very, very blessed. I've been, just this past year, I was named the Business Person of the Year for the state of New York.
Oh, wow.
Which is a federal award that comes from the federal government.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was, it was very shocking. I think that a lot of the awards or accolades or whatever you want to call it, accomplishments, come not necessarily from the fact that we are a big brand per se, or a large financial institution per se, but I think it really comes from the fact that I have been able to do things that in business particularly, that a lot of people have not been able to do. And it feels good to be recognized for that, right? So to be, for a minority Muslim women in America, starting a business from scratch, and the restaurant business, which notoriously, as you perhaps know this really well, is the success rate of restaurants is maybe 3 to 5%. 90% of restaurants across the globe fail within the first year. And then it just gets worse, right?
Yep.
So to be able to have a brand that I've been able to grow, and working in a community and in a food that's not natural to me, I think all of those kind of things really make us a story, right?
Absolutely, and it really does sound against the odds, right?
Against the odds, against every odd.
Against
every odd. So I think there is a feel good, and it's inspiring for myself, but it's also very inspiring for young women and other entrepreneurs who are sort of trying to get on this journey. And I have a little incubator that I run in the US.
Oh, wow.
It's called Tara Incubator, that we help a lot of young people or minority people or women who want to, kind of come into the business world. How do you get started? Because I literally, like I said, I started out on the streets, right? So I think my journey makes a lot of people look at us in a different way, right? Because we have come through a very non-traditional way of doing everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's amazing to hear about the journey from you right here from India to the States. But as a woman in the hospitality industry, was it your corporate grooming that actually helped you to break through these barriers, or how did you actually, what are the challenges you faced as a woman entrepreneur in the hospitality industry over there?
That's a really good question. And I always like to say that part of it is stupidity. And I'll explain that.
Okay.
People are like, oh, you are not stupid. I'm like, no, if you're stupid enough to think that you can do it, you can actually do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
Because I never thought that I couldn't do it.
All right.
If you know the reality of a restaurant business, and if you know the failure rates, if you know the challenges, if you start thinking about all the things that can go wrong, I think it would be easier to not do it.
All right.
And it would be easier to psych yourself into thinking that, okay, this is not possible, right? So I think part of the thing that actually worked for us was the fact that I just was like, yeah, we can do this. I mean, how difficult can it be?
Ignorance actually helped you to,
absolutely
break all worries and
absolutely. And the other thing that really helped for me in the beginning is I am extremely data oriented.
Right.
And that perhaps comes from my technology background and working in corporate America and that training, because I worked in an area of publishing and printing, which is called imaging and workflow management.
Okay.
So my entire job prior to coming into the food business was workflow and process management creating efficiencies, reducing cost, reducing steps in a process, da 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 da. And that training doesn't matter what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? You could be printing a magazine, you could be building that chair, you could be cooking a biryani.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The idea behind it is the same. How do you reduce your steps and process, and how can you create efficiency? So I think that was extremely helpful for me. Not being part of the restaurant background was very helpful for me,
Absolutely.
because I was able to look at everything that we were doing from a clean slate. So people were like, "Oh, restaurant, you cannot do this," and I was like, "Why?" Right. So asking those type of questions and creating a format that works very specifically for me, my family, and my business was, I think, the key to our success.
Amazing.
So I'm not saying that what we do might necessarily be something that works across the board, but what we do works brilliantly for us, and we're happy with that. Right?
Absolutely.
So we had a certain criteria of what we were going to do by running a restaurant. My biggest criteria, honestly, was I'm not going to become a slave to this business. And everybody said to me, you're in the wrong business. If you don't want to be slave to your business,
this is not the business for you to be in.
This is not the business for you. Go get a corporate job. And I was like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And we did. All my restaurants in the US are only open for a 2-hour lunch period and a 3-hour dinner period. And we're closed the rest of the time. So 5 hours of working period time is what we do, right? I have created a process where my prep and my setup and everything happens during open hours. So we don't even necessarily have to spend a lot of time in prepping and getting ready and all of that.
So there's a lot of critical path analysis that you do.
Extreme amount of that kind of stuff. So and at every stage of the business, from service to kitchen to back of the house to operations to accounting to every touch point that you can have in the restaurant. We've been able to analyze and recreate and create a process workflow that works for us. So that's all sort of the technical part of it, right? The other part of it is the question you asked was being a woman in a kitchen, in a business, and what is that? And that is very tough. It is very challenging, being a female chef. It was really funny. In the beginning, people would come to have meetings with us, whether it's vendors or salespeople, doesn't matter who, and they would always just look at my husband, and he's looking at me, so that change took some time because people, we're in
presume naturally that he was the boss.
He's the owner, he's the boss, he's the chef, he's everything. I just happened to carry his purse for him, and he would be like, no, it's really her. You need to talk to her. So that change took some time, and it was interesting because you're living in America, you don't think that still exists, right? But it does exist. There's a lot of sexism, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say I've ever faced racism in a very blatant level, but it is, right? You're still a minority. People still look at you and what you are doing through a colored lens. So anything that you and what you are doing perhaps is not necessarily as good as something that maybe a white person and what they're doing is looked at. So we have to struggle through that. We have to do a lot of education. We have to do a lot of, I find that I have to do a lot of
unlearning and relearning?
Well, not necessarily for myself, but also for the consumer.
Consumer also.
I have to work a little bit harder to gain their trust.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's not just enough for me to say, hey, I have a great product, come and check it out. They have to learn how to trust me. They have to learn how to trust my process. So there was a lot of that stuff, that happened in the very beginning stages.
Absolutely.
And we worked through it. I love a challenge. I don't find them to be challenges as much as solving riddles and problems, right?
Absolutely.
And finding that key that kind of unlocks that. So it's fun for me.
All right.
It doesn't mean I don't cry into my pillow at night. I do.
Tell me any restaurateur who doesn't do that, right? It's either a bad review or an employee making your life difficult or a landlord making life hell for you. We can keep going on, right?
Employees never make my life hell because I just fire people.
Okay.
I have fired chefs in the middle of a shift. I've fired waiters in the middle of shifts, and people just looking at me like, how are we going to do this now? I'm like, I have no idea, but you're fired. So that's one source that does not stress me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's people I don't think really understand how extremely convoluted, involved, and then the number of touch points in a restaurant, right?
Yep.
And the sources. So I always like to say that it's a beast.
Yep.
The beast must be fed.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
And it's a 24-hour beast.
Yes.
So you're constantly feeding the beast, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of attention and work, and being taken seriously, not just in the community but also in the culinary world, and all of that took some time. So we've been very fortunate to have been awarded lots and lots of culinary awards for the restaurant, for me, and for the products and things, but that took some time, that took a lot
Absolutely.
of effort. And
but I think you have your idea and concept very clear, that you should not be a slave to the business, because unfortunately most of us do become a slave to this business, because like you told, the nature of the beast is as such.
Yeah.
Right? It needs constant care, it needs constant feeding.
Just feed
It
other
needs
people to the beast.
So that is as such how that particular industry works. And like you said earlier, I mean, we are just discussing about the popular cuisines in America, and Indian cuisine is actually becoming the second most popular one.
Yeah.
And quickly, I would just like to bring in another industry colleague or industry superstar, Vikas Khanna's new restaurant, which is launched. Bangalore. Apparently, it's very difficult to get reservations right now, and the waiting period is extends to a few months, I understand.
And
And
I've read that too.
did you have a chance to visit it, or
No. I'm not going to do that. I'm
Okay.
going to wait till all the craze
is going
down.
Because every other publication that we are seeing, everything we're seeing online is like, Bangla is this, Bangla is that. And Chef Vikas Khanna, I think he has dedicated quite a lot of time
He's
to build
there
his
right
brand.
now. He's on the floor.
He's on the floor.
Yeah,
and is working very hard to make it come true. Very
Yeah.
happy for him
Yeah.
from the industry's perspective.
Yeah.
And I really hope to wish him well, all the very success. So that being said, how do you see the Indian cuisine changing the face of the hospitality industry, or how do you see it evolving over a period of time?
One of the things that I'm kind of excited about, and I myself now want to do this in the US, is we are seeing a lot more authenticity, as much as you will, come into the Indian food in the American market, right? Because for the longest time, I would say for the past 30, 40 years, maybe perhaps even longer, the greatest Indian cuisine that you could have there was butter chicken, chicken tikka masala, tandoori chicken, and maybe a couple of naans or something, right? So I think what's different now is you are really seeing chefs who are bringing two things to the Indian market, which is modern Indian, which is what I think Vikas Khanna is doing.
Yep.
And I haven't been there. I mean, I'm waiting for all of the craze. Our restaurants are actually not that far away.
Okay.
But I'm waiting for some of that stuff to die down. And my travel schedule's been crazy. And then the other also is like a lot of the chefs are bringing some like regional cuisines of India. We're seeing Konkani cuisine. We're seeing, some stuff from Bengal. We're seeing some stuff from like, parts of Maharashtra that we've never seen. I mean, Indian food is so vast and so diverse, and just, I can't imagine another cuisine that's as complex as Indian food is.
Absolutely.
And to see this watered down version of butter chicken in the US really kills me.
Absolutely.
So that is exciting. And in fact, in my Tribeca location, which is in Manhattan, we are doing a Hyderabadi pop-up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because obviously now I'm spending so much time in Hyderabad, and I want to try and bring some of what I am looking and seeing here into what in my kitchens back home. So we're going to do like these standalone pop-ups of just purely Hyderabadi food, because also nobody's doing Hyderabadi food there at the moment. So that it's an interesting way for me to kind of merge all of the countries that I'm working in.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting that people are like coming out and trying new things in different types of different regions of India. That's exciting. modern India is exciting to take the food and do something new and innovative and different. Like what some of the chefs are doing, and specifically Manhattan, is really, really great. Yeah.
I mean, the dining scene there is like really, really, how do you say, cosmopolitan. Like you have it's like a melting pot of so many different cultures together.
Yeah.
You have some fantastic Asian food. You have a fantastic.
I mean, Manhattan is the epicenter of the world, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no
Big Apple.
There's no question about it. There's no question about it.
Okay.
It's my favorite city on the planet.
Absolutely.
I've spent most of my life in that city.
Fantastic.
From the age of 19.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't ask me how old I am, and try not to calculate, you people. So, and it's also one of the toughest markets.
Yep.
One of the most diverse, but also one of the most knowledgeable.
Yep.
Because most people in Manhattan come to Manhattan, right? There's no like real local Manhattan people. So they're usually well traveled, and even when we are there, we travel a lot. So you can't fool somebody from the city.
Absolutely.
That's why they say, right? If you make it in New York City. You can make it anywhere in the world. Yeah, so it's really exciting time to be in the city right now.
Absolutely. Now, just a quick question from the business perspective: how are the aggregators, like people like DoorDash and all? What is the kind of impact they have on the business, and how crucial are they for running the business? Yours more of a dine-in concept.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a dine-in concept. We we survived through during COVID purely on takeout and all of that stuff. And in fact, pre-COVID, my takeout business was about 5%.
Oh.
Because we were very, 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 very focused on the dine-in experience.
I would presume it's very difficult to say take away for tagine, right?
No, it's actually very easy because tagine is like a curry.
Curry, right.
You just, put it in a pot and put it in a pan. It's actually very, very good for takeout. But because we cook in a tagine, serve in a tagine, and we have this beautiful space, and we have an open kitchen. All my restaurants are open kitchen.
Oh, wow.
So you can see what's happening. So we were always so busy with our dine-in business that we never focused on our takeout business, right? But when COVID hit, and the mandate in New York State, the city was different than the state. The mandate in the state was you can be open, but only do takeout.
All right.
And we needed, we took like 10 hours to even figure that out. Like, how do we do this? How do we convert everything into takeout? But we did, and we survived, and we actually hold the record in New York State for not having a single day of closure.
Wow.
So none of my restaurants closed even one day.
Wow.
Through the entire pandemic.
Wow.
And we survived, we pivoted. Like we were talking about earlier, you have to be malleable, you have to be able to do different things. During COVID, I cooked everything because all the restaurants shut down. I was one of maybe 2 or 3 places that was open in the city. And, we did Chinese, we did Peruvian, whatever we saw on Facebook and blogs that people were talking about, we were like, oh, we can do that. Right. Which really helped us kind of stay, in business and afloat. So
you watched the trend and you started giving out whatever people wanted.
Being in the restaurant business, people misunderstand this grossly. I think you're not in the food business. Right. I think you have to understand that first. You're in the people business. And if you understand people, you understand what they need and what they want and how they want it, then you can give them the food that they want.
Well, that's really, really profound, Chef.
Yeah, I think that has been a part of our success is we are very, very, very focused on our people.
Right.
And when I say our people, I mean our external and our internal people.
Absolutely.
Right. So part of your job as a restaurateur or somebody in the food business, you have to keep both sides happy. Right. You have to keep your internal customer, who is my staff and my employees, happy, and then your external customer, because only when the internal is happy can the external be happy, right? So we are constantly making sure that we're trying to keep these two people happy. So I say this all the time. I'm not in the food business. I'm in the people business.
Absolutely.
If I understand both of these customers, I can have a successful, so yeah, we 100% are constantly keeping tabs on trends. Where are people eating? Why are they eating? What are they focused on? What are they talking about on blogs and foodie websites? All of that kind of stuff. I'm like a stalker. I'm constantly stalking, listening to what people are saying.
So you just mentioned about influencers. How do you weave them? You weave them as a necessary evil. I'm sorry for saying this, but how do you actually view them in your part of the world?
That's interesting. Now that I'm in both countries, I see differences in both things, right? In how things operate in both countries.
Okay.
And in both countries, I say the same thing. In terms of influencers or digital marketing people, all of that kind of stuff, particularly for my business, I'm not going to talk about anybody else. I think the impact is zero.
All right. Really?
Yeah.
Did you say zero?
Zero. I'm 100% confident.
Wow.
The impact is zero.
Okay.
For many different reasons. So it does not mean that we don't engage with them and don't use them and don't create content with them. Does that translate into a butt in the seat?
All right.
It does not.
All right.
Right. So you have to know that. And then you have to know how are you going to use that. So we use them to create content, mostly so that we have virality in our Instagram and our Facebook feeds, with the knowledge that it doesn't affect our sales.
Absolutely. So you're talking about balancing vanity metrics to that of conversion. You're trying to, your good food eventually brings the people inside.
The end.
Near the end, right?
The end.
And
good food, tastings,
service,
of course, ambiance. Unless you can get your food into someone's mouth, conversion doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
This is my thinking,
my
personal thinking. This is how we think about it in our business. So we don't necessarily say that we're not going to engage with influencers and all of that stuff, but we also don't depend on it.
All right. And just another quick question might be very relevant for the young aspiring chefs or people who want to get in the restaurant business, specifically women. What is your piece of advice for them when they want to get into this business, either in India or America or any part of the world? What would be your advice to them?
Specifically for women, this is what I would like to tell them. Don't be a damsel in distress. Because if you're a damsel in distress, you can't be in this industry. Right? And if you want to be a damsel in distress, then you have to then also know who your Prince Charming is.
Absolutely.
Right? Or how to go about getting him. So it's a very, very difficult industry to be in. The physicality of the industry is very difficult, right? I mean, in a kitchen, to lift up the pots and to chop for hours and hours, or to be on your feet 10, 12 hours a day, all of the physicality itself of the job is very difficult. Then you add the stressors of all of the things that you're trying to do and manage and cook and operations and marketing and finances and interpersonal relationships with the staff. So it's not an easy place to be. So you have to be very, very, very strong, and you have to sort of know and be a problem solver. So of course there are going to be thousands and thousands of problems, but you have to sort of be able to cry into your pillow at night, wake up, brush it off, and then see what is the solution, or find the right people for the solution.
Would you mean to say that we all need to have really thick skin for us to
you don't need to have thick skin. You need to have veins of steel.
Veins of steel. That's
no
the right
blood.
one. No blood.
Veins of steel.
Absolutely. Now, you also did mention that you are having multiple restaurants. So how do you actually manage your team, and how do you actually get the right people? Because I think since you are there in the people business, I think getting the right people to run your team and help you out, right? It's not possible for you to be at the same multiple places at the same time. So how do you manage it, and what is your mantra for being successful in that?
I only hire people that I want to be around. That's the first thing.
All right.
We don't hire for talent.
Okay.
We hire for personality.
Wow. Okay.
So that is a huge part of our business model. I would say about 90% of my employees have never been part of the restaurant business. And I'm talking about the US right now.
All right.
Because India, I'm still trying to figure this out. So I would say 90% of my employees don't belong to the restaurant industry to begin with. So that's part of our, success. When you find the people that you want to hang out with and spend time with and all of that stuff, and you train them, you treat them well, and you keep the A team. Right. So you're constantly hiring. I'm also constantly firing. So I don't put up with anything. So the first instance you do something that feels off to me, you're fired. You don't get second chances. You don't get third chances.
Your hiring and firing sounds like very, very American to me. Is it inherent because of exposure to corporate America, or is it,
No, it's inherent because I have zero tolerance for anything.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised I've been married for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think maybe my husband's more surprised. So I don't put up with anything. So we try to hire the A team, and of course there'll be some B's and C's. We fire them immediately. And then when you hire people that you want to be around, and we all kind of get on the same page, they also then want to work with people that get on the same page, right? So the A team then also keeps building the A team.
Right.
You don't have the B's and the C's, right? So that is a part of it, and we've developed a core team of people who have been with me a minimum of 7 to 8 years. So we have, that is also very rare in the restaurant industry to have people who stick in a restaurant or in a business for a long term. But the way we operate and what we offer to our employees and the freedoms we allot them, whether it's with their time, with their money, with their schedules, all of that contributes. So like I said, a huge part of my job is constantly understanding what my internal customer needs, giving it to them, so that they can keep my external customer happy. Right? Absolutely. So it's a lot of team building. It's a lot of having the right people in place. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of hand-holding.
A lot of patience, I presume.
A lot of patience. But I only show patience with people that I want to bring on and I see a future with, and I'm more than willing to invest the time, money, and energy into that. I will not do it with anybody else. So I fire extensively.
You're right.
I also hire extensively.
Absolutely. So that has been really wonderful to hear about your various experience and such. Just a quick question in terms of, since you had this idea very clear from the beginning that you don't want to be a slave to the industry, the work-life balance, because most of the chefs or most of the restaurateurs actually struggle. This work is their life and this life is their work. And in fact, I'm very sorry to say many of our brothers and sisters in this industry face a lot of personal life crisis, specifically with the
drugs
work pressure and because they have to find different ways for them to balance out the depression that they are fighting, because it's not easy to be ridiculed all the time, or for that matter being criticized all the time rather than being ridiculed. Be criticized all the time and facing a lot of pressure with the banks, facing a lot of pressure with the business. It's an endless stream of story. So what is your mantra in terms of balancing this, and how do you keep yourself insulated from this not getting to you? I understand that you're happily married with children, and how do you do that, balance that?
I'll be very honest with you. I don't try to balance it.
Right.
I just don't.
Right.
I would say most of the time I am extremely focused on my family.
All right.
So what we do, and this is how we run our business, I put sort of a box around the problem, right? And we work backwards of the problem.
All right.
So the problem being, we will not allow the restaurant to consume us.
Right.
We will not allow whatever it is, right? How do you make that happen is the solution.
Absolutely.
So and then you don't deviate from that, right? this goes back to the idea that you have to be very malleable in this industry. So, for example,
And you also stick to your guns.
and you have to stick to your guns. You have to stick to your guns, and you have to. Otherwise, that's what happens. You get consumed and eaten up. I have seen so many of my friends and colleagues and stuff who started out in the business around the same time that we did, who are either all closed or who have pared down their
Burnt out.
operations, burnt out, divorces, moved away to Mexico and living on a beach. Like, I've seen it all, right?
Seen it all.
And I think the difference again for us is, for example, we are the only restaurant that does a 2-hour lunch,
Wow.
right?
Absolutely.
We are the only restaurant in that entire area that does a 3-hour dinner, and everybody's always like, "Kya bacha restaurant hai yaar?" Why don't you do more? Or why? No, we will not do more, because we've figured out the formula that this is what gives us X number of dollars, and then we can have Y kind of lifestyle, and we're happy with that.
And very truly, less is more in this
Very
end.
truly. So you can't imagine how much I stick to my guns.
Right.
So, like, we're closed on Mondays. I can't. Doesn't matter who calls. We won't answer. We won't do parties. We won't do catering events. We just won't. So we're very, very, very strict about our time off.
Right.
And then when we do have our time in the restaurant, we're also very strict about that. Work is work and play is play, right? So making sure that every minute you are in the business is working hard for you. It's multitasking for you is a core part of how we operate. So that is very helpful. And we're also very process driven. So because we're so strictly process driven, that is also very helpful. So it's easier to train and maintain and, keep pumping out the same stuff. So there's lots of different things. It's not, it's not necessarily one thing that kind of makes, it's a lot. So just like you need so many different ingredients for a recipe to work, it's the same way.
Absolutely.
There's little parts of little things.
So many
that
other
we
things
do.
coming together to give you the final result.
Yeah, I think what you have to keep top of mind is what is your priority, right? My priority is at 3:30 when my kids get off the school bus, I should be home.
Absolutely.
And then you work everything else around it. How do you
Absolutely.
make that happen, right? So my priority never is I have to do 100 dinners today, or I have to make X number of dollars, or I have to, that's never my priority. My priority always is, are we having dinner together? Are we doing, and then with the understanding that there are certain times when the business comes a little forward, right? So right now,
Absolutely.
my family is making a huge sacrifice because I've been spending a lot of time in India. This is probably my, I think, 12th, 14th trip to India in the past year. So I've been coming here a lot, which means there's a lot of stress, not just in my family, but there's a lot of stress in the company as well.
Absolutely.
So not having me around causes a lot of other people in the company to have to step up some more and have to
Absolutely.
take more of the calls, make more of the decisions. But we made that commitment together. So the family committed to me being away, the business committed to me being away, and we all had an understanding, a timeline, a plan, so
It's very organized and structured, and you keep
have
following
to be
up diligently.
extremely planned, and doesn't mean it always then falls into place also, right?
Yep,
you
yep.
know that better than
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
else,
yeah,
perhaps. So you have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and you just have to be at it. At it.
Absolutely. So again, when you spoke about your children, I see you're a very passionate, family-oriented person.
Yeah.
Right. So what's one of your most favorite dishes that you love to cook at home? At home for your family, for yourself.
You think I cook at home? No, I'm kidding. My husband cooks. No, I'm kidding. I do. I love breakfast foods and eggs and those kind of things. Of course, I cook a lot of stuff. Korma is a big one that my kids love. So like mutton korma, with korma, right?
Yeah, of course,
Yeah. So korma is a big one in our family. Doing like a spinach shakshuka is a big one in our family.
Okay.
So we make for breakfast.
Okay.
We
That's
do,
a Moroccan thing, right? Shakshuka?
Shakshuka is sort of Morocco, Middle East,
Middle Eastern kind of thing.
Levant.
Right? Yes.
So it's different kinds of sautéed vegetables and potatoes, and then you poach eggs into it.
Absolutely.
That's a big favorite in my house.
Are the eggs supposed to be runny, or are they supposed to be well
They're
cooked?
supposed to be runny. The yellows are supposed to. The yolk is supposed to be runny.
Okay.
So when I'm home, especially the past year or two, I've not been home that much. But when I'm home, breakfast is a huge part of what we do.
Absolutely.
So shakshukas, bigriers, which is a Moroccan pancake.
Absolutely.
Aloo paratha. My
Aloo
kids love
paratha,
aloo
aloo
paratha.
paratha.
Yeah, yeah.
Can always take a man out of India, but never the India out of the man.
No,
right?
you cannot. We are such desi people. It's pretty sad. If we don't eat like dal chawal once, twice a week, we're like, khana kidhar hai?
Absolutely, absolutely. We just returned with the family. We just returned back to Chennai, and as I was just sitting and eating in the airport, we just trying to take a quick bite. My daughter just said that just can't wait to go home, have some rice and some some rasam and some dal, and she's like really through it. So I think you can never ever take the Indian out of us, right?
Genetically programmed. We also travel extensively with my kids, and no matter where we go in the world, we're always like, where's the Indian restaurant? And I'm like, stop it, we're in Rome, let's eat some Italian. And they're like, no, where's the Indian? So literally, every country we go to, the first thing we do is, as a safe bet, we will find where the Indian restaurant is. Kuch bhi, something goes wrong, we'll go there.
There immediately. That's a comfort that gives us, right? Absolutely. And in fact, just one thing I just want to share with you is that the same thing what my father used to do when he was around. And as soon as he lands somewhere, he'll find out where's the nearest biryani serving place.
Yeah.
That is how much he loved biryani. And speaking about biryani, what is your take on biryani, and what do you think about it? How does it play in the American market today?
That's growing up, I never liked biryani. I was not a biryani eater. I was more of a bagare chawal, dal cha, and korma. That's my jam. Again, because I think I like to eat flavors that are like, maybe that's been a thing for me forever.
Absolutely.
So biryani was never a thing for me because it feels too oily, too rich, too all of that stuff. Having said that, of course, as an adult, I really appreciate it. And the way we make biryani at home, the way I learned it from my mom is different than what I'm even seeing in India now.
All right.
So it's definitely a much loved part of our, daily, not daily, but rotation in the US, in my home. And I think biryani has not necessarily made a big mark in the US yet.
Really?
Well, in the sense that when you eat the biryani in restaurants in
so when you say
US,
desi, it would be either Pakistani or Indian or maybe even Bangladeshi. So there'd be variations of these kind of biryanis that are available.
Yeah, but it's not really biryani, right?
Yeah.
It's like chicken curry mein chawal dal diya.
Oh, jatka biryani,
It's all jatka biryani.
Okay. It's not. They're not dum cooked per se.
No, I'm sure there's some I think Paradise is there.
Of course.
And I think Paradise might perhaps be doing that because they have that kind of volume.
Right.
But if you go to any run-of-the-mill restaurant, then
no one can afford to make it in a handi, wait for it, to sell it out, and end of the day face the consequence if they don't sell it out, the food wastage of it.
No, you can't do it. So unless you do the real dum biryani, I don't consider it biryani. It's all just pulao. Or it's all just rice and curry. Right?
So ladies and gentlemen, amongst us we have a purist who believes how a biryani exactly should be. It's not what makes you happy, but how actually a biryani is supposed to be made.
Yes, because unless it's made the right way, how can it make you happy?
Each to their own, that is how we feel, but nonetheless,
Wait, what is your thought on this?
Whatever makes you feel happy, today in the world we live of pronouns where it's a he, she, they
them,
it, whatnot,
cat,
right?
cow.
So whatever makes them happy. If you say this is the biryani, what's your problem?
No. Wait,
Yes.
I shouldn't be saying that because I do a lot of stuff to Moroccan food. That's not purist.
No worries at all. Well, Chef, that has been really wonderful speaking today.
Yes,
and welcome to Chennai.
Yes,
and
excited.
Before we sign off, I'd like to ask you, where can people find your restaurants and what can they expect, not just in America, but here and besides in Hyderabad? What are your plans and what are the things that we can look forward to?
So in Hyderabad, we are currently in Jubilee Hills. And if you just go to tarakitchen.com, you can kind of see everything about what's happening in the company across both countries. The goal for me in India, particularly, is to try and create this into a pan-India India brand.
Okay.
You know, I would love to be not only the first Moroccan restaurant in India, but also the first chain
Right.
doing Moroccan food in India. I am trying to understand and learn and make all my mistakes in Hyderabad. It feels like a softer landing than
Right.
going to perhaps a bigger city like, you know, even Bangalore
Mumbai
or
or
Mumbai. Mumbai, I'm extremely scared of.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, deathly terrified.
Very similar to New York, I understand.
Yeah. Probably scarier. So I want to make sure that we can, you know, I'm still new in India.
Okay.
I'm still new in India in terms of not just running a business, but understanding the people.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that yet, right? I thought I was an Indian. Then I came to India and realized I'm an American. So
Yes.
I have to learn India first.
Absolutely.
I have to learn my, my internal and external customer.
Absolutely.
It's very, very, very new for us. But
Absolutely.
my goal is to kind of try and build this into a pan-India brand. You know, I'm very, very excited to be in India. I'm very excited to see the growth in India. This is definitely a very different India than when I left over 3 decades ago. My family's been in the U.S. for over nearly 35 years. So this is a very, very different, new, progressive. The technology here is just stunning.
Absolutely.
Stunning. Like last night, I needed something around midnight, and I was like, boop, 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 11 minutes. I'm like, mere darwaze ke paar khada hai ye? Like, I don't understand. How are they bringing me my 3 random ingredients in 11
Absolutely.
minutes?
11 minutes.
Like, where are you coming from, dude? Like, you know, like, I don't understand. That doesn't happen in the US, right? Like, where I
Absolutely.
live, if I need something at 8 p.m., I have to wait till 10 a.m. the next day.
That is how competitive our market is actually becoming.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
speed has become everything right now.
It's amazing. Why can't people show up on time for meetings then? Like,
That's a problem then.
What is that about?
Well, we always operate in a concept called IST, Indian Stretchable Time. So, it usually, you know, it's a very elastic thing, you know. So depending
I
on
love
how,
it.
yeah.
So see, that is something I'm learning because I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
11 o'clock meeting, I'm there at 10:55 and everybody else is like, ye kon gada aa gaya? You know, because everybody shows up like at 1 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I didn't even drink tea, dude. I came on time. And they're like, well, you're the idiot.
Yes.
So I'm learning the stretchable time.
Yep,
I'm
yep,
learning,
yep.
you know, I'm learning how people like to eat in India, what kind of, you know, motivates them to eat and that. So once we kind of sort of figure this out, we're going to start, you know, bringing the brand across the country. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Well, Chef, I want to wish you all the very best. It was very exciting to discuss about you and quite a lot of takeaway for us. And I really hope that you find what you're looking for. And all the very best once again. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Have an
this
amazing
was-
visit here this time in this India.
This was really fun, and thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Thank you so much. So that's pretty much about it, fellas. So I guess this is what we are signing off for this episode of I'm Food Venturist. So hope to see you guys soon, the next one, and more exciting things coming our way. Take care.